Well, hello, everybody. It's Thursday night. It's time to jump into that fire. Ron Hall here. Hope everybody survived the storm that came through. I slept through it. I guess that's a sign of my old damn age. I don't know, but hope everybody's had a great Thursday. Man, the weather is just absolutely beautiful. Hello, Kim. Tell the old man I said howdy. Start things off. This is a TFT, and you'll figure out what that means. You will figure it out. It's a TFT Thursday. So, man, the day started off so well. And I had heard rumblings of this yesterday. Okay. But I do not. I try to be ethical. I really try to be ethical. But I heard rumblings of this yesterday. In fact, I heard them a couple of days ago. But this morning, the word did get out that it was this close to the Mocs having a second game. And the deal was in place. In fact, yesterday, COVID testing was paid for. And this morning, COVID testing was paid for the Mocs football staff, players, Jim Reynolds, Todd Agnew, the play-by-play, the entire traveling party tested yesterday and this morning. It was paid for. Didn't cost the university a dime because it was this close to happening. A deal had been struck for the Mocs to play Nebraska this Saturday in Lincoln. And Nebraska paid for COVID testing yesterday, and they paid for COVID testing this morning. And then the Big Ten Conference, of which Nebraska is a member, because back up just a second, Nebraska was scheduled to play Wisconsin this week. Wisconsin is shut down. I think they have 19 cases of COVID. Nebraska paid for the testing yesterday, paid for the testing this morning. Then the Big Ten met the university presidents, chancellors, whatever, and said, no, Nebraska, you cannot play. Because the Big Ten is doing an 8-game conference schedule 8 weeks in a row. The Nebraska-Wisconsin game has been declared a no contest, and it will not be repeated. It's 8 weeks in a row. There's no built-in bye week. For instance, the SEC built in a bye week to make up possible games that were scrapped because of COVID. Big Ten would not let Nebraska do that, and the dream became a nightmare. So the Mocs will not play this Saturday. It would have been their second trip to Nebraska. They went back, I think it was 2011, and it was a 40-7 Nebraska win. But if you talk to the players that were there, the Nebraska fans were some of the nicest fans they had ever come across. So, I hate it. Nebraska was going to give them between $225,000 and $250,000 to play the game and pay for all the COVID testing, and Nebraska was going to pay the transportation costs for the Mocs to get to Lincoln. They were going to charter the aircraft and everything. So unfortunately, it didn't happen. And I hate it because it would have been a great trip for the team. And who knows what would have happened. Nebraska did not look good in their first game, and the Mocs looked pretty good in a game that realistically was stolen from them by the Conference USA officials. And we all know I don't like to whine about the officials. It is what it is. And don't forget, Saturday or whenever it is, back your clocks up. Spring forward, fall back. At least it'll be 1 hour less of 2020. Because God knows I can't remember a year like this ever. Between COVID and the political climate, my God almighty, it's ridiculous. Well, let's have some fun tonight. I've been thinking about this for a while. And, you know, I had teased about the Rushmore of Chattanooga music. Jerry Haskew. As a group, the Impressions, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame members. Roger Allen Wade. And Usher. Usher spent enough time here just outside were Bessie Smith and Danny Shirley. But I've been mulling this one around for a long time. And keep in mind, this is my opinion. And a lot of the critics of rock and roll, you know, Rolling Stone and Billboard and all of that, we're in agreement on some of these. Some of them we're not. The 10 greatest songs in the rock and roll era. Now, it may not just, it may, hey, Diane, and it may not be confined to what you consider rock and roll. Now, before we get to the top 10, I've got a list of songs that are honorable mentions that were, if you stretched it out, probably the 30 or 40 best songs of the rock and roll era. Hotel California. Just outside. The Eagles. That is, some people consider it their masterpiece. And I do not like watching the current incarnation of the Eagles do it because I got no. Vince Gill is a talented musician. But for me, after seeing the Eagles, the original Eagles at Ingle Stadium, Vince Gill just doesn't fit it. He doesn't fit. Another, the Beach Boys. God Only Knows. It's from the Pet Sounds album. Brian Wilson wrote a gem here, and his brother, the late Carl Wilson, sang it, and it was perfection. It may be the greatest love song of the rock era. A song that I love to tease Skynyrd fans with, and I love to tease Confederate flag wavers with, and that's Neil Young's Southern Man. I mean, that's just, it sends First time I ever heard it, it sent chills up my spine. Leonard Skinner Can Kiss My Ass. The one Led Zeppelin song that I consider, no, and it's not Stairway to Heaven. It's Kashmir. Dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun-dun. I mean, I just love that song. The guitar of Jimmy Page, the drums of John Bonham, and those vocals of Robert Plant, that to me highlights the talent of Led Zeppelin. And if you go to YouTube, you can really find a great clip, and it's the three guitarists from the Yardbirds. Clapton, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck. Beck replaced Clapton, Page replaced Beck. So, a list of great rock and roll songs has to have the Faraday, Louisiana marrier of his first cousin, Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, Great Balls of Fire. Oh, come on. Hey, Jerry Lee's got to be on there somewhere, right? Just outside that list. And then one you're not going to find on a lot of critics' lists. Pardon me. And if you watch my Facebook page later on tonight, I found a new app, and I'll tell you about it at the end of the night. But keep this in the back of your mind, the movie Goodfellas. But this one is on my, and that's Layla, Derek and the Dominoes. Clapton in the throes of heroin addiction, still dealing with being, the Clapton is God graffiti all over London. So he decides to have a band with Bobby Whitlock, Carl Radle, Jim Gordon on drums, who is currently serving a life prison sentence for murdering his mother with a hammer, and Dwayne Allman. And Layla is just Clapton at his best. It's a shame that you got to see him in concert now to get to experience just how good he is. And that's why I consider him the greatest guitarist of all time. Now, here's where I'm going to throw you. And if there are any Elvis fans, I'm sorry. He should have been bitch slapped for covering this song. This song was written for Frank Sinatra by Paul Anka. My Way. It was written for Sinatra. It wasn't written for Elvis. Okay? Although one of my favorite songs of all time by Elvis is Suspicious Minds, but Elvis is in the top 10 because he inspired people like Springsteen, Tom Petty, but he was their first inspiration. And then Four Young Lads from Liverpool really got everybody inspired. Stevie Wonder, Superstition. Man, if you don't get up and dance to that song, there's a problem. There's a huge problem if your feet don't get moving when that dun, 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 that is Stevie Wonder at his best. That just The Who, Baba O'Reilly. If you're not familiar with it, go look it up and listen to it, and you'll know what it is. Okay? Chuck Berry, Johnny B. Good. I mean, come on. It's some of the folks with the Chattanooga Lookouts thinks that's the only song you can play for air guitar, because the only way they equate it is Marty McFly in Back to the Future. But Chuck Berry, Johnny B. Good. Now, another one of my personal favorites. Sympathy for the Devil, the Stones. It's just, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. Yeah, I mean, it's just, and if you've never seen the Stones live, oh my God. The Rolling Stones. Whoa. Billie Jean, Michael Jackson. You can't, I mean, that for more than a decade was the number one selling album of all time. It has now been surpassed by far and away by the Eagles' greatest hits. In fact, the Eagles' greatest hits, which realistically doesn't even have Hotel California on it, was the biggest selling album of the 20th century. Now, Kip Klein's going to like this one. My gut just tells me that Kip Klein, hello, Michelle, please be safe going home. I meant to message you guys and say I hope you guys are safe with the fires. I've got relatives out there and my friends like the Weisenbachs, and I hope you're safe with what's going on in Orange County and the fires. But Kip's going to love this one. If he doesn't, I'm going to be severely disappointed. And I consider it one of the greatest songs ever made. Metallica, Enter Sandman. And you're not getting. There we go. We're back. If you're of a certain age, there was an album that came out. Are you experienced? The Jimi Hendrix Experience. And yes, Virginia Tech, the greatest entrance in college football, period. Nobody close. Running through the T is baby shit compared to Enter Sandman at Virginia Tech. But Purple Haze. And no, it's not Excuse Me While I Kiss This Guy. It's Excuse Me While I Kiss the Sky. One of the most misquoted lyrics of all time, Purple Haze. February 1964, the world changed. Music changed. I was there in front of the television when the Beatles appeared on Ed Sullivan. She Loves You, the Beatles. This is probably the newest. No, Enter Sandman's the newest, but this is the second newest song as far as when it came out. And it's been, and this was in the 80s. Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Nirvana for all the issues that Kurt Cobain had and everything else, we can hopefully agree on one thing. Nirvana drove the stake through the heart of hair metal out of Los Angeles, like Motley Crue and Poison and, bands like that. They drove a stake through the heart of hair bands. I mean, Bon Jovi was even a casualty of Nirvana. And if you saw the movie Ray, what did I say? Ray Charles. That is rock and roll. That was the thing about Ray Charles. He could do it all. He could do it all. And I know Kim's a Michael McDonald guy. There is a duets album. I think it was the last album Ray Charles ever did, and Michael McDonald's one of the duet partners he had. You had to have Jerry Lee Lewis. You had to have Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Tutti Frutti. Come on. And that song was co-opted by Pat Boone so it would sell to a white audience. There was just something un-rock and roll about Pat Boone. For all of his charitable work here in Chattanooga for many years, there was just something un-rock and roll about Pat, and that's why he is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Another Beatles song just outside the list. I Want to Hold Your Hand. I mean, I could take 10 Beatles songs and put them in the top 10 because I admit it, I am a Beatles fanatic. They have still sold more albums than anyone in recording history. And just a little side note, there's a new John Lennon release. Basically a repackage of John's greatest hits, remastered. It debuted on the Billboard charts at number 2. So don't tell me there's not still an audience for anything related to the Beatles. All right. Now we get into the crux. The 10, in my opinion, and you can disagree. I don't care. I'm not going to get offended. To me, the 10 greatest songs in the rock and roll era. Merry Clayton is what makes this song at number 10. And I think everybody here is old enough to know what has heard the song. And due to copyright restrictions, I can't play them. I would have to buy the rights to each and every one of these songs to play a clip for you. But Gimme Shelter, the Rolling Stones. Oh, children, it's just a shot away. It's just a shot away. And Merry Clayton's vocals on that are, oh my goodness. That's the greatest song the Stones ever put out. Now, if you listen to the lyrics, it's kind of like Sympathy for the Devil. If you look and listen and read the lyrics to Sympathy for the Devil, some of people would be offended by it. I think it's a great song. So is Gimme Shelter. On April 26, 1976, he performed this song at the Memorial Auditorium. Guess who was there? Me. And about 400 to 500 of my closest friends in a building that sat almost 4,000 people. And he performed this song. And for whatever reason, and that could have been the reason, he never came back. In fact, he was kind of shocked at the, and yeah, it looks like I smoke more, but more than often than not, they burn up while we're doing this. But at number 9, Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen. That is an anthem. And I was very lucky in that I have seen in the top 10 that I have seen 1, 2, I'm counting, 2, 3. I've seen 3 artists that are in the top 10. Side note, my first concert ever was Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes at the Tivoli. I mean, I've seen them all. James Gang, Ted Nugent, The Who, Rolling Stones, George Harrison. I've seen the Doobie Brothers, believe it or not, more than I've seen anybody. And I have my tickets. I think it's July 23rd at the amphitheater in Atlanta. But Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen at number 9. Number 8, Hound Dog, Elvis. Nothing else needs to be said. They can try to pass off Bill Haley in the comments, Rock Around the Clock, as the first rock and roll song. That's debatable. But if you listen to interviews with Springsteen and the late Tom Petty, Elvis kicked it for him. And then somebody we'll mention later is the one that truly got inspired everybody from that point on. Coming in at number 7, the Queen of Soul, Aretha. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me. Respect. If I'm not mistaken, it was written by Otis Redding. Otis Redding wasn't just sitting on the dock of the bay. Number 6. This is the song that changed this band's image. Because up until then, it had been Surfer Girl, I Get Around, Help Me Rhonda, Little Deuce Coupe, Shut Down. It had been surfing and car songs. Up until this song, which was written about his dog. Brian Wilson wrote this song about his dog and how he thought dogs, and they do probably, all animals pick up vibrations from humans. And he sits down and pens good vibrations. And that forever changed the image of the Beach Boys, who are now because you have Mike Love, the cousin, on one side, who has the touring Beach Boys. And then you have Brian Wilson and Al Jardine, those three are the last three original Beach Boys. And there's a little bit of a feud going on, and we'll get into that another time because I said it was a TFT. Number 5. I read the news today. Oh boy. It's on the Sgt. Pepper album. Day in the Life. The Beatles. It is, I mean, I came real close to throwing in I Am the Walrus because I love it. I am the Eggman. I am the Eggman. I am the Walrus. Cuckoo, Kajube. I bet I didn't. But A Day in the Life. That just, everybody's heard it. Number 4. And I am a Motown fanatic. I love me some Motown. But this is the greatest song that ever was released by Motown Records. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On? And it's so appropriate for these times. It's so appropriate. I mean, and Berry Gordy kicked and screamed because up until this album, Marvin Gaye was relegated. He was doing the standard Motown stuff. And then he said, it's time. I've got a voice and I'm going to use it. And he did with this album. And What's Going On is just, it may be the greatest anti-war song ever made. That's number 4. Number 3. We got to go back to the Rolling Stones. Dun, 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 dun. I can't get no satisfaction. And listen to the lyrics. It makes a powerful statement. It really makes a powerful statement when a man comes on to tell me, I mean, talking about commercials and just talking about the world in general in the early 60s. Jagger was already onto it. Number 2, we're visited by the Hey Jude. Really something written for John's son, Julian. Because John Lennon and Cynthia had split up. Julian was their child. John had moved on to Yoko, and Paul wrote this for Julian Lennon. Na, 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 na. I mean, and radio stations balked at playing it because it was so long. It's kind of like American Pie, which I forgot to put on my list. But it's outside, but it's one of the greatest songs of the rock and roll era. And then, there we go, back. And this is the only song by the poet laureate of America. Bob Dylan, the greatest song of the rock and roll era. Bob Dylan, Like a Rolling Stone. It don't get no better than that. It's a long song. And I have been one who has been known to have that CD playing. And when that comes on, I crank it up. I'm sorry. That's just me. That's just me. What can I say? But that's it. That's my 10 greatest songs of the rock and roll era. Because realistically, what does it say about modern music when a compilation CD of John Lennon debuts at number 2 on the Billboard charts? What does that say about this music today? That it's in pretty damn bad shape. What does it say when the biggest tours year after year after year are acts like the Eagles, the Stones, McCartney, Springsteen? You can throw Taylor Swift in there, but consistently, it's the veterans who people want to see because it's an experience. There's a reason why Greg Payne and his buddies and Dr. Haddock, they go to concerts all the time and they're going to see the old acts. We've lost 2 in the country music industry in less than a week. Earlier, the passing of Jerry Jeff Walker. One hell of an artist. And he helped define that. Best known for Mr. Bojangles, but man, he took one of his buddies' songs and made it his own. And it's up against the wall, redneck mother, a mother who has raised her son so well. He's 34 and drinking in a honky tonk, just kicking hippies' asses and raising hell. He also did Trashy Women, the Confederate Railroad hit, before Confederate Railroad made it a huge hit. So, and then yesterday we lost Billy Joe Shaver. I know my buddy Davey Smith is down in the dumps over it because he had met and talked with Billy Joe, introduced to Billy Joe by Danny Shirley. So country music, put away your the midget, Kenny Chesney, and Luke and Jason and all those guys. Listen to some real country music. And those guys were behind real country music. We will be back Saturday night. Early voting ended in Tennessee today. It ends tomorrow in Georgia. Be prepared to bundle up this weekend because my understanding is temperatures are not going to get out of the 50s. In fact, I think the low Sunday night is going to be in the 30s. But I am not getting rid of my shorts until we have consistent freezing. We will have some updates when I'm okay on how things will be at Mocs basketball this season and how they will be taking COVID into account for their home games this season. So I'll keep you updated on that as I am allowed to. But thanks everybody for tuning in. I just wanted something a little more light natured tonight. Saturday night is probably going to be a little more political. Don't know yet. If Alan is out there watching, and I've not been keeping up, but if Alan's out there watching, Bailey is leaving WWE. Heritage and Gordon Lee, I think, are on their way to the Georgia softball tournament down in Columbus to fight for a state championship. So good luck to them. I think the world of Dana at Gordon Lee. I just think the world of her is because, I admire her dad, Frank. Well, it ain't going to be here, Michelle. Tomorrow's only going to be, the next few days are going to be in the 50s. It was 80 today and a little bit windy, but that's okay. What came through here, she is taking some time off, Kim. My understanding is her stepfather recently passed away, and she has asked Vince for some time off. And she wants to spend some time with her family. She will be back, but it'll be next year. I'm still a huge fan of AEW and what they're doing. And I think this is the last week. If you've not watched it, but if you have Showtime on demand, go back and watch the documentary series on the Comedy Store. It is top shelf stuff. We will be back Saturday night, 7 o'clock. We hope everybody has a great Friday and Saturday. Good luck to the Panthers as they take on Cedartown. Big game. Tennessee won't lose this week. They're off. I'll leave you with this. Why I despise Tennessee so much. And I'm kind of glad it didn't pan out because I got to work with this guy. First doing the LFO games, then doing the North Georgia game of the week. But in my opinion, when John Ward announced his retirement, it should have been a no freaking brainer for Randy Smith to have taken over as the voice of the Vols. And that's why, that's one of the many reasons I don't like the Clorox Orange. We will see you guys Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Remember, be kind to each other. Good night, everybody.